Recording is on.
Welcome to DXdao, and the first one of 2023. It is January 4th at 1600 UTC. We will start first with the proposal, or let's take a look at the agenda first. We will start first with the proposal roundup, mostly a bunch of things on Mainnet, and then also a couple discussion items here. Actually, somewhat light agenda today as we start the new year. We had a lot of proposals actually last week, kind of at the end of the year, but some big proposals here that we can go through here. So starting with Mainnet here, so you can see we have, I think, 9 different cow swap orders in. So this is really big ups to Dave for doing a lot of this over Christmas break, because since it takes 16 days, he's been like submitting these proposals a lot. And so we have those 9 in there. And I think most interestingly is that we have started increasing the amounts of these, which I think in this one, it's 15,000 LUSD. And this is basically, this price is now going forward will be basically set at the 70% Treasury NAV target price in stable coins, and it'll still take 16 days to go through, but that'll also be because of the way CalSwap works, if the prices change where it's gone in a different direction, then it will basically turn into a limit order. And so that's the CalSwap orders. As I said, there's 9 all in the multi-call there. We have Caney Fork worker proposal for December 2022. So this is just for December. Previously, we've been doing 2-month proposals, but to align these with the guild budgets, this is just for December. So I posted this at the beginning of the month, but I'm actually just submitted the payment proposal there at the end of the month. So, So if you, there's still a day left if you're interested in voting on that. And then, the big proposal that I wanted to go over here, and this is where the typo is. I don't know if anyone sees it yet still, but throughout this proposal, I noticed this yesterday. Of course, I used 2022 instead of 2023 to refer to all of the budgets. I think I don't know exactly what my defense is. I would say that I wrote this in 2022. So that was why I did 2022, but I've always struggled in that first initial time to realize you're moving between the years. So for anyone watching at home, anyone that is questioned this 2022 throughout this should be 2023. Of course, this is not a proposal to go back in time and fund DXdao through this. This is a proposal for going forward. So having established that, this, as a reminder, is part of the new structure, the phase 2 restructuring and refocus proposal to use to a budgetary-based system here. So in going through that process, there were 5 different guilds that submitted 6-month budgets that were improved. We have the Operations Guild, Voice Guild, DXgov, Swapper, and Carrot Guild. So they were approved for 6 months of regular cost. That cost for the 6 month is 918,000 for the 6 months there. And then in this proposal, funds are being sent for 3 months of the operations of these different guilds. So for, I think, all of them except for Swapper, that's just exactly half of their amount that is in this budget proposal, and that will be sent, and we can see here, to the funding address we have here, which is actually a Gnosis safe of the guild members. And so this is something that we've been working on a lot over the last month or two, is not just the process for funding, how we come to consensus on what should be funded, but the actual infrastructure that we're using the guild stuff that the guild infrastructure that the DXgov team has built. So while we are kind of transitioning to that, what we have here is actually the funding address for the multi-sig to receive the funding, and then that multi-sig can then pass it along to the guild as it sees fit here. But in this proposal, especially because we wanted to get it submitted as early as possible so people get paid, you can verify that the signers of these different, you can see here, if you want to actually take a second, you can verify, the signers of these yourselves, and you can see here, this is Caney Fork, this is Dave, this is Sky. I should know, maybe not, but you can see, you can kind of verify all of those there. One other note you can see here, or I guess 2 other notes. One other first one is there. If you add up all of these, I think it's just 470,000. But wanted to send, but the proposal itself is actually for 629,000. You can see this number, and so this is actually SUSD. But the reason that we wanted to send more than the amounts to the guilds is because the rest of it will actually be deposited into Gnosis Chain base. So there is a little bit of a debt that Gnosis Chain base has incurred over the last month in the transition to guilds, as a lot of proposals went through, but there weren't any funds on Gnosis Chain. So the rest of this will be sent to Gnosis Chain base to fund Gnosis Chain base. I think it'll be about $20,000 or so that has been in backed up expenses. And I just noticed another proposal that was boosted or staked on last night that will be paid out through Gnosis Chain base. And then after that debt is cleared, then there will be like 100, 125, $30,000 that will just be in the Gnosis Chain base should there be anything that's needed from there going forward. But there shouldn't be that many proposals there because a lot of it has been, of course, approved through this. So that's 162K there. The reason using SUSD and this number here is this is actually the entire amount of SUSD that is available in the treasury. So I think if you had looked, we got so this is the SUSD token here, and so I think we got this in the initial treasury diversification round because it is one of the ones that you could say is decentralized because it's actually only based on the synthetics token and doesn't have any centralized collateral, so it doesn't have a USDC in it. Although I'm not sure if just basing on the synthetics token is actually a strong defender against centralization. So that's one of the reasons why we have not increased the use of it. But here decided to basically just use all of the SUSD so that we can clear out of the treasury. And so that's the 629 there. And just for people that are maybe curious how I got the that specific number, because what I want to do is basically mean so there's no dust in the treasury of SUSD. So all we can do here is when I get the balance of owner, and then we're just going to take the DXdao avatar. And yeah, that's what we got this number here, 18 decimals. And so you just copy that and put it into there. So that's the SUSD component. And then the last thing to note here is, with the shift to the DXD token model and the 70% of treasury NAV price floor there, the treasury calculation will be very important. So through this process, kind of being clear on what counts to the treasury and what does not. So for this purposes, basically, I think the definition is any fund that is in a multi-sig or guilds that is through this, whether it's these, as I said, these safe multi-sigs or the guilds themselves, funds in those will be counted towards DXdao treasury until it is in the sole possession of the individual stakeholder and contributor. Now, there shouldn't be that big of a reason because this is only the first three. There's only 3 months of that, but important just to clarify that for going forward. So yeah, you can check it out. And again, like each of these, you can say, although it says 2022, each of these links link you to the specific proposal that was approved on chain already for payment there. So you can check out that if you have any questions. So yeah, I wanted to stop here for comments and feedback. Going once. I guess we will say goodbye to the SUSD. And before that, we'll, as this kind of says in here, the SUSD will need to be converted to DAI and then also bridged across. Now, the nice thing about each of these safes is when Sky created them, they're actually multi-chain. So this is the same address on Gnosis Chain as well as Mainnet. So the multi-sigs themselves could do the bridging if they wanted to. Awesome. So that's proposal, as I said, 5 days there. And, for those, I think there's some people that still have payment proposals that have passed on Gnosis Chain. So if you're waiting for the funds there, I think, so 5 days from basically 3 hours from now, plus some time for transition, you'll be able to claim those payments. Okay, next up is, the great governance gas refunds, enter gas refunds. So those of you that are not familiar with DXdao has been greatly subsidizing the cost of doing governance on Mainnet since its inception here. So this is the Q3 and Q4 gas refunds here. So anyone that has interacted, you can see the 35 addresses that have interacted with DXdao governance over that time period have spent various amounts of ETH. That's whether you're voting, boosting, submitting proposals, moving proposals from the staked phase to the boosted phase. You'll have that. And though we were looking at if you're looking at the rankings for who has spent the most gas, you can see here D Labs here at just under 1 ETH in that time. And then Caney Fork here at 0.46. So those are the big gas spenders of this time. And then Augusto is, I'm not sure where you, Augusto. 7? Yeah. That would be good. We should have bronze. Actually, I think speaking of POAPs, that would be a pretty sweet POAP, I think, to give like the biggest gas spenders. And yeah, the contract has already been deployed, of course, and it's pretty easy to go through and claim. The funds aren't there now, but yeah, you'll basically just see what your index number is here associated with your account. And when you go here, you'll just type in whatever the index is and do right for your gas refund. And that's the gas refunds. And then we have Ether Labs AB payment for proposal for November and December. And this is, of course, Vinky, been project manager on Swapper. It's happening through DevX. And again, this is for November and December there. And then, we had the rest of the cow swap orders. And that was, I believe, it for Mainnet. Sure. Oh, there was one more proposal that I didn't. Where is this one? Maybe I don't see it on this. It's still pending boosting, so maybe I didn't have there. But yeah, so this is deposit 130 ETH and 300 DXD. This liquidity relayer. So this is also part of some of the stuff around the DXD token model is to increase some of the liquidity using DXDAO's own funds. And so the way that we do that is through this Swapper liquidity relayer contract, which we've used on Gnosis Chain a somewhat good amount and have used less so on Mainnet. But the way that works is you need a proposal to send the funds to the contract, as you can see here, and then a separate proposal from DXdao that actually like programs the deposit in there. And so this is the first order just to send the funds to the Swapper liquidity relayer. The proposals that will program the deposit will need to take place separate. And I actually think we should suggest doing those in smaller amounts just because the pool itself is not that big right now. I think it's on about 56 ETH right now. So you want to kind of gradually do that. So yeah, be on the lookout for like the first proposal of this probably to go in hopefully by the end of today here. Cool. And that was it for Mainnet. Switching over to Gnosis Chain. I've actually had some problem lately on DXvote on Gnosis Chain. But there's actually there's two proposals on Gnosis Chain. We have Xerox Clom contributor proposal and the rep for the November and December. So just like Venki, but I think they'll probably get paid almost at the same time because these funds it won't arrive. Actually, basically arrive about the same time as this proposal would go through there. And then the other proposal that is live is just one cow swap order, which you can see here is actually voted down. This is actually voted down by Caney Fork here. And this is because if you look at this order versus an ETH order, we've actually now, since we've hit the 70%, we no longer need to have that additional slippage tolerance. And so this order itself is actually at 0.553 WETH for DXD, which is higher than the 70%, so voted that down there. And I think going forward, if you look at where these orders will come, they'll mostly just be through Mainnet, through CalSwap, and I also think through stablecoins there as well. So yeah, that's why this was voted down, and we'll, another day of that. Cool. Keenan, you can catch up on all the things through chats and the DAO talk. I feel like a lot of things that you're discovering are things that were from the last week or two. And so that's it for the proposal roundup. Wasn't sure if there were any other thoughts before moving on to the discussion items. Cool. So the first thing I wanted to bring up, this is something I posted just before Christmas, was this idea of this governance stewards, and wanted to present this just because I was hoping to maybe try to move this forward into a proposal in the next few weeks to get some feedback and a way to launch this program. So just for recap, this is a program trying to engage rep holders who are not active contributors to engage in governance more active. And so this would be a program that would actually incentivize that behavior by paying them directly, and they would get paid for that, evaluated based on some of their governance performance. The big thing basically is attending the calls and then voting on the proposal once a month. And so, this would be potentially a cost because we would be paying people for this. But I think it's a way of kind of starting to introduce this idea of paying for governance, and some different discussions about maybe way to implement this. I think Element Finance, you can see, has done that. And I'm not sure that this would be something that would be like wildly popular in the initial phase, but it's something that, like, a program that I'd like to try to get started at as small a level as possible, just to try to like get the ball rolling so we can evaluate, say, okay, this isn't working, this is working. How's the way to increase participation and incentivize things there? So I wanted to kind of call to attention here to see if there are any kind of thoughts, comments, disagreements, or questions about maybe like what this program could look like. And again, if no one's interested, it doesn't work, the cost isn't really there. There is some overhead costs, I guess, in terms of setting it up and doing that. But any thoughts or comments on the DXdao governance stewards? Going once, going twice.
Can you explain, sorry, Chris, can you give a short overview on how this will work?
Yeah, I mean, so the guide being anyone who is above 0.5% rep, and this number could change, right? Anyone that has above this that is not an active contributor could apply to get funding, to get paid to participate in DXdao governance. And so the way that participation would be judged would be they would need to attend 10 governance calls. So that's one's right here. So you can see lots of people are kind of here already. And then they would need to vote on at least one proposal per month. Now, I know these are pretty like low bars, but there aren't that many. I think there'd probably be only 15 or so addresses that would qualify this for that. But to me, it's just a way of engaging the broader rep community to pay a little bit more close attention to DXdao governance, and that takes time. And so providing some extra reward for that to occur. So I don't know if that helps explain a little bit.
Okay, and what happens if they vote on a malicious proposal, or a proposal that is not doing what it's presenting to? For example, on a, let's say, a proposal to send funds to some address, it is sending more than the funds that the proposal is specifying. Yeah,
I mean, I think that this is very easily gameable, and that's kind of so this would not be, say, a permissionless program open to everyone, and because then you would have a lot of potential like malicious activity. what you're really trying to do is filter to a good group of governance participants. And that's what I think is actually valuable in the rep holder base, is we actually know that this group of addresses has engaged in governance in the past. And so they can be trusted a little bit. But there is some potential for gamification of that. So that's why I would want to maybe both keep the amounts low and then also keep like the payments at the end of the time to ultimately basically be approved by DXdao governance again. And I know that, again, it kind of sounds like you're paying for governance that maybe anyone could do, they could fake it. But I think having some incentive for that, and then being able to say after, no, this didn't work, or no, you weren't actually participating in governance, you shouldn't get paid. I think that is, that could still create a good crop of additional governance participants.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like
Don't know how
good
to feel
initial
about it.
values. Yeah, it seems like good initial values. Let's see how it goes on the first 6 months.
Yeah. And Soup, I'm thinking about, everyone, a lot of people on this call, I think guys are mostly, a lot of people are active contributors. Some people, maybe in the future, you want to like go and do something else against DXdao, but somehow like stay engaged a little bit. So it could kind of be for that. I think there's also a way that we could maybe encourage other rep issuance. We're having a big shift away from the individual contributor rep issuance here. So we can figure out other ways to get people involved into this program, I think would be a good way. And Soup, is that how I feel about the minimum 0.5% rep limit, meaning it should be lower or higher? I guess lower would be probably. And that's only there, I think, to prevent the kind of, because I agree. It's only there to prevent the potential spam problem that Augusto was talking about. So I guess one of the ways we could do this is even change it. I guess we could have different levels too. Because I guess like most people are doing Discord rep boots, maybe have like 0.25%. I don't know. Soup, I think I always think of like Soup and Connor. Like, I think you guys would get reputation. Like you could do a rep issuance on Mainnet for a lot of the contributions you guys did, not just for like DXD token working group, but like obviously a bunch of different things there. But I think you guys are kind of exactly the type of people that it's like, if we can provide a little bit more incentive for you to participate in governance, then that like is beneficial to all. It's a great GIF, Dave. Just giving me all sorts of the validation that I want. Cool. Well, I'll probably have a little update on that sometime maybe next week and see if we put it to proposal. I'll think about if we need to just lower the rep amount or maybe create like different tiers or different ways of targeting. But cool. And then the next item on the discussion list that I wanted to call out was we have discussion on the DXD Redemption Implementation. So there was just a question from Molotov both here in the DAO talk, and then there was also some question in the Discord. So I think we discussed this yesterday also in the developer call, and it's kind of being worked on. There's kind of a final steps. Maybe Dave, you could give a little bit of an update on what the current status is. I'm shy, Adam.
Okay. All right, so I think
3AC, will 3AC give an update? Excuse me.
Sure. As you can see on the screen, like we have like 4 bullet points we're trying to get done. For the smart contract, I would say pretty much it's solidified. We're not going to change anything about it. We're just waiting for Federico to go over once again. But other than that, I think we need like a green light from DXdao. I think this would be coming in a form of a multi-call proposal that is going to approve the 3 tokens that we are trying to target. So that would be DAI, LUSDC, and then USDC. For WETH, I think we need to wrap it using like probably Dave can correct me, but something called mimic vaults to get back the WETH into the contract again. And then we want the community to actually be part of this. So we're waiting from other contributors who are technical enough to run a verifier node. We need those addresses to put them on the contract. Finally, we also want to get a consensus or a temperature check whether A3C should be running the aggregator node or just delegate that to one of the rep holders, whoever wants to actually bother with the server costs, with the setup and everything, make sure they have like a reliable infrastructure.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, there are like two roles in this system. There is the like oracles, that's like a couple different people that are checking the prices of that, and then this oracle aggregator, which is getting just aggregating those prices there. So I think the suggestion was you'd have community members, a couple different community members that would run the oracle part, and then it sounds like 3C was offering to run the oracle aggregator part there. Is there a step? I can't remember. Is there, if the community members like wanted to run that, would that be
So
here? Are there instructions on?
once we deploy the contract, ideally we want a list of people who want to volunteer as verifiers. Then we would also ask them to start running a server, giving us their endpoints so we can put that in the database. Obviously, everything's automated. The verifier have to do this themselves. But the idea is we want to get those people. We want to let them know that these are the things. We also need to know the threshold of how many. So the threshold is like, I believe I explained this, it's a basis point right now. It's set to a minimum of 50%. So if you have like 10 validators or 10 verifiers, you need to have at least 5 signatures. And if you put that to 70%, you need 7, and that's how it works. And we also want, I think, we want people to basically have like enough technical knowledge to know how to run this.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of like wondering, is what level of that is. Yes, it's probably.
I would say basic Linux knowledge. Basic Linux knowledge, the ability to know how Docker works. I have some idea of how you can port a Nginx server to a Docker container. I think I can probably write some documentation on this, but pretty basic stuff.
And I'm just looking at this line here. I would actually say that I think this could either be rep holders or DXD holders, but probably just a rep holder, because then you'd be able to like slash in any case malicious. And then I guess the other question is this something that should be incentivized if people aren't doing it? Is there a cost to running it in the first place? And then, should we incentivize the addresses that run? Because I imagine because each of these would have a specific address, Ethereum address behind it.
Sure, yes.
Cool. Awesome. And just as a reminder, like in the meantime, just thinking about the other parts of the DXD token model, I think as said, we have, there are 9 different proposals right now going through. So we've kind of been staggering these already. And then there is also the funding proposal for the Swapper liquidity relayer. So this should give some additional liquidity for smaller amounts around the 70%. In the meantime, while this is ongoing. And then I think the only other thing to maybe think about from a community perspective for this is the initial amounts to try and give approval to for the contract. And I only say that because I think this is something new, and maybe we've thought of everything, but there is a little bit of a risk that you don't want to give access to all of the USDC or all of the DAI in the treasury. So thinking about what those amounts would be, I think something like the 250K on each of those stablecoins is probably maybe at least enough to start with. But that's probably the other thing we need to think about. Cool. And that was it for the discussion items. I know there's been some discussion on the proposal for reimbursement of stolen funds, but I think that was maybe, yeah, we could chat about it here, but that was better for the forum while that's still being in discussion. But I wasn't sure if there was anyone want to talk about that or anything else on the mind. Awesome. Well, in the new year, no, just in the initial batch, just basically like to test it out, because the way that you would, like the way that the contract works is it needs to have an approval of a certain amount of the tokens for then you to come through and redeem it. And so I think there's like a little bit of a risk that the Oracle could be manipulated or something. So whatever you would set in that initial approval period, yeah, that would be like the last backstop there. And that will be a proposal that needs to come through there. So that's like I'd say like the only big decision is what is that initial like approval period. Yeah, I mean, you can stagger those. It would only like, so you could submit a proposal and then again, it takes 16 days and you could submit the next one whenever you wanted to do those initial authorizations, just as long as you had like I think there'd be some time flexible to see how the system would work before increasing it to lots more and more. So whatever that time period is, but it's not dependent on like, you don't have to stagger it, wait for the proposals can go simultaneously. And you could vote down the proposal, right, if there is something that's wrong before you do that. Yeah, I think that's a fine discussion. I guess the other thing is kind of talking about OTC develop, like kind of two is like, is this something that could be better coordinated just through like direct sales? And I think either is fine. I mean, I think we were using this one as a way of like a more scalable version, but I think like Mesa proposals would also be fine. I mean, it is like, you can kind of think that anyone can submit the Mesa proposal right now. So like Connor, you could submit a proposal that's like proposing to DXdao to buy a certain amount of DXD at a certain price. So I think Mesa is also an option. We do have to get solvers to run those. So that does require some like community support there too. But yeah, please Gnosis. Yeah, but as I said, like I'm up for like the Mesa, I think option that was, I think actually my preference from the beginning, because I think that is a little bit like simpler, but that we just have to, we're going to commit to that. We need to figure out that there will be liquidity there and that there will be the solvers running. Actually, no, you don't need to move it to the multi-sig. You can, I'm like 99% sure DXdao can interact directly with Mesa on mainnet. Yeah. You would need like the trust issuance is on, or not trust, but you need the person to do the ETH and the OW. Oh, right. Sorry, you're doing GC. Yeah. So I thought when people were saying Gnosis, I thought it was like Gnosis Mesa, like they wanted Gnosis to run the Mesa server. But Dave says can also do larger cow swap orders at redeem price, because again, those cow swap orders do basically turn into limit orders that are like Mesa orders, but you don't have to go through the Mesa smart contract deposit and withdrawal. I think, Dave, we haven't really seen yet how those limit orders, like, I guess how if it doesn't execute at the market price, how it would sit on CalSwap. But we have, all of these orders, especially these last through, are 15,000 ones. So like theoretically, these could be increased, to 50,000, 100,000 just through the CalSwap there.
Yeah, from my understanding, the issue is if you don't fill within like the initial amount of time, or like your order becomes a limit order because it can't match, in the future it won't actually route through any other DEX, it'll only match if someone is actually placing an order of the exact same size on cow itself. Yeah, so it's like not. It's a bit suboptimal if it doesn't match. Yeah.
And those funds, I guess, when do those funds get returned to DXdao if that order is just like sitting on?
Well, you can just cancel it. Well, the way cow swap works, it's an approval, right? So you never the funds only get withdrawn when an order is matched. So the funds are never even withdrawn in the first place. But you can also cancel the order anytime anytime is a good statement. It takes 16 days for us to cancel an order, of course. But if you would want to cancel an order, you can just, the same way you sign it, you can cancel it. But yeah, the funds are never withdrawn until you match. So.
Cool. And then Dave and I were actually just chatting this morning because Dave set up a cool little system to submit these on Mainnet. And so, yeah, very convenient to do those. So yeah, just kind of thinking as a recap, these are like the three ways that are kind of ongoing. One, there's cow swap orders that are going now. Those are increasing to 15,000. And if those are successful, if those like limit orders could be filled, that could be increased like a lot more. The second is this DXD Redemptor, which I think there's just still some final touches, a final review to go on the code for the smart contract, and then some need to find some community members to run the oracles. And then the third option being Mesa, which would require some solvers to run there. So yeah, I think all of those are different versions, and we can kind of keep figuring out how we can execute on those. I think all of the above is kind of the way, and you could see different holders maybe want to access one a different way. Awesome. And then just as I have not going to try to put a schedule out at the end of the week, but we are trying to hopefully have the first DXD monetary policy committee meeting in a couple of weeks. I think 3 weeks, maybe from tomorrow, or 4 weeks from tomorrow. Yeah, but I will send that out at the end of the month, January 26th. Yeah, 3 weeks from tomorrow. There, which we'll discuss this, and then also some of the things in the inverse bonds. We've been doing some research on that to present there, and will be a good opportunity to make sure that we have got everything finalized by then, and are managing this kind of at the DXD holder level. Awesome. Any other thoughts, parting thoughts on this January day? Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining, and have a happy Wednesday.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.